What's good, everybody? Welcome to Whole Views. Thank you for clicking that thumbnail. My name is Corey, and today we are going to be talking about the newly crowned best video game adaptation ever, and that's Fallout. So, as a person who's played the games, I really enjoyed Fallout 4. It was my introduction into the world. I have since watched plenty of videos that dive into the lore of the Fallout world. I know a good bit of the backstory involving New Vegas. I only know a little bit about Fallout 3, but I do know a lot about the things that go on inside the universe. And so I've put in over 400 hours on Fallout 4. I was watching the promo for this stuff with great anticipation, and now we have the season and we have to talk about it. So when we're talking about the best video game adaptation ever, there is a bit of stiff competition. And when we talk about Fallout, we're going to go in order. 3 reasons as to why it's the best to adapt and why this adaptation seems to be the best in comparison to a lot of the others. First, it's very important to note that Fallout has limitless potential as an IP. The games as they exist right now give you about 200 to 250 years worth of lore. And while it does seem apparent in season 2 that's already been announced that they're going to probably stick with the storyline of the Ghoul and Lucy and Maximus, and we'll rotate between those 3 characters. They could easily step away from those characters and give you an anthology type series for multiple episodes, and it would still be good. This IP is so good, in my opinion, because they can give us a story that we've already played through in one of the games, or they can just pick a random vault number and give us a made-up backstory that happens inside the world that we already know as gamers and fans of the series. When we're talking about video game adaptations, there's the Sonic universe that is coming together quite well. They have the Mortal Kombat series of films that stumbled in the beginning but appearing to be getting it right now. And then the big dog is The Last of Us. The Last of Us is the best done adaptation up until this point. But Fallout, in my opinion, is a step above what we got with Last of Us. And it is because everything that exists within this IP, still sticking on point number 1, you need to understand that when you watch The Last of Us, or better yet, when you played The Last of Us, it felt as though you were already playing a movie. And the decisions that you made were kind of scripted to the point where if you see the show and their adaptations that they made to the game that you already played, it felt as though they were betraying the source material. Where with Fallout, you get the option in the game to pick different factions and such. And it leaves you in a place where you could play a non-canon ending of a game, and you have a full experience that they just explore something different on the show, and you'll be open to it as a viewer and a former player. Let's talk about number 2. And here in number 2, Fallout is not head and shoulders above every other video game adaptation, but it is on par with it, and that category is production value. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about set design, I'm talking about cinematography, I'm talking about the store or the inclusion of actual in-game scores back in the actual adaptation that we seen in live action. It's all done so well in relation to Fallout. The environments that you have in the game were totally mirrored what we saw on this TV show. And even though these locations were unique, they also had a flavor of what you saw in the game. Take, for example, the town of Philly. Philly was never mentioned in Fallout 4. Maybe it was mentioned in one of the other games that I haven't played, but it did feel very much like Diamond City. When you arrive in Diamond City for the first time and you walking into the little town square, you have that centerpiece in the middle, and then you have all the little businesses and shops that go around on the outskirts of the town. And it just felt very much like looking at Diamond City for the first time. Staying on the point of production design, the vaults. The vaults were put together so well in a way that I never imagined them coming into life the way they did. And they could take that same set and use it over and over again. They could give us episodes that are entirely self-contained inside those vaults. Imagine having a COVID type thing happen again. No one wants to see that. But I could also see production in a show like this not get hamstrung by limitations, because you can give us an episode where one person is just going around and searching a vault and discovering all kind of horrific things that have happened in the past. and that is what you did in the games, and that is something that we saw here on this show. Just the production design allows you to do so much. And with that being said, it leaves me with great anticipation as a viewer. I think about the fact that we haven't even seen a Raider camp yet. Like, we've seen some settlements and we've seen some factions, but we've never seen anything when it comes to Raiders and where they're living. We haven't seen super mutants and where they're living. We haven't met the Minutemen, if we even ever meet the Minutemen. The Gunners, they were not present in this. There's a lot of different things that we can see pop up in future seasons of Fallout, where with The Last of Us and many other shows that are adaptations from video games, we're kind of restricted with what those games have done. This one, the world is so big and so massive that we can see all kind of stuff come to life, where in other places maybe not so much. Point number 3 here, and this is something that Fallout does so much better than, I would say, specifically the Mortal Kombat franchise. Fallout, as this season wrapped, they really captured the essence of the games in every different aspect. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the spirit of the comedy. It comes through perfectly. The elements of horror and mystery, they exist in this show the exact same way they existed when you played the games. A lot of the stuff that we experience when we play the Fallout games is like tongue-in-cheek comedy, something like, you're always seeing one of the characters or one of the little animated models winking at the camera and just being really glib and giving off that sense of lighthearted jokiness that you could probably see play to a 1950s audience in America. And at the same time, the horror that existed inside of the vaults and all the different experiments that went on and all the different sinister plots that people came up with, that stuff was delivered quite well, especially when you get some of the reveals at the end of the season. Listen, there's a lot of different things that can make this show the best show that is an adaptation from a video game. But I think, again, point number 3, capturing the essence, and point number 1, having the IP that is so rich and full of elements that you could pull from and drop in. And it's not just fan service, it is things that actually help the characters move forward in the world. Those things make for a great adaptation, including those things in some other game franchises that go over to television or film. Those things can seem like fan service when they mention certain things. But in the Fallout universe, you see them talk about Radaway, and it's like, yeah, that was a little thing that you used when you was picking up too much radiation in the game. But it's the same thing that's true in the show. Our main character picks up radiation, they need some type of cure, or they're gonna die, just like real life, just like in the game. And it comes across, and just hearing them name drop certain products felt so good. There were times when mini games from the games showed up on the show in the same fashion, and it just felt perfect. Things like that don't really exist in other shows, or I don't know how you make those things translate in other shows. I guess you would have to have, in The Last of Us, you would have to see Joel or Ellie stopping and crafting something out of the items that they picked up. But we don't really get those moments, and those moments may not really translate from a video game to the actual screen. But here, everything really translates quite well, and I really enjoyed it. So let me know your thoughts on Fallout. Did you really enjoy it? Do you feel like it is hands down the best video game adaptation? Because I feel like next to The Last of Us, there's not much else that's done better than Fallout was done in this season. The potential for them doing this show is so big, and I'm really excited. I really loved it. If I had to rate it on a scale, it would be at the top. Great. It is great television. And it even crosses over to audiences that aren't game players, because my wife does not play the games. And she saw 2 episodes and said, I want to see more. I want to know where this weird thing goes. And it captures all the weirdness, the funny, the spooky, the sinister. It's all there. And so those are my thoughts. Let me know yours. And that's all we got for this one, y'all. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, and go watch something good.